Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Prid and Kenny over the last couple of days have given a deep perspective on exactly why the Esports World Cup is so important to this OpTic Texas team. Yes, they've won the World Championship, but they absolutely do not want to throw away any opportunity to try and win another event, especially when the prize pool is this big. Also, the intention from OpTic seems to be, why would we let anyone else win and potentially be confident in their roster again going into the new season when they can completely demoralize their opposition yet again? Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. As always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, thought this is kind of interesting. These were the MVPs of the majors throughout the year. Shotzzy, of course, won Champs MVP at the end of the year, but Major 1 MVP was CleanX. Major 2 MVP, of course, when Toronto didn't win and it was FaZe that won, was Simp, of course, with a massive Major 2 trophy. Major 3, of course, Shotzzy was the MVP with the nut. And then HyDra, obviously enough, was the Major 4 MVP. So pretty interesting that every single one of these players this year is an SMG player, right? And obviously they kind of question where would these four place if they teamed up. They would be very good, but you know, they probably wouldn't be the best team in the world. I mean, it's basically 4 SMGs. What you would do is have CleanX and Shotzzy play as a duo. You'd put probably Simp on the flex and HyDra on the main, which feels weird, but HyDra actually ran the main a while ago. When he first came into North American challenges, he actually was briefly a main AR, and he would be absolutely disgusting at doing that if he was to. But yeah, so this team would obviously be very good. But it is interesting that this year no AR players won an MVP, right? You know, neither of Cellium or Drazah or Dashy or even Scrappy won an MVP this season in that role. Now, it's not like the AR players were bad, but it just goes to show that this year it was generally dominated by the SMGs, or at least their play felt more impressive and impactful over the course of the season. This was interesting to note as well, right? Because we currently have 12 teams in the Call of Duty League. 12 is kind of an awkward number for winners bracket, losers brackets, stuff like this to play out. Now, you can make it work based on what the Olympics are doing for basketball. Of course, ideally, we go to 16 teams, right? And we just straight up have 16, you know, teams as it used to be back in the CWL, 4 groups of 4. It's the best possible number. You can even do a double Olymp bracket straight up from 16 down to 1. That's a possibility as well. But in the Olympics, they have 12 teams, but 3 pools of 4. So they then play round robin within the group. The top 2 from each pool advance, the bottom 2 go home, but of course, that's only 6 teams. So the final 2 teams are determined by basically the best scoring third place team, I guess, from the other groups. And at that point, you know, it could be highest map win percentage in COD or something, and that will give you your 8 teams. So this is like a possibility, because right now what we do is we play 5 weeks of online qualifiers, which is effectively the group play that we used to have on the weekend itself, go to the major and have 8 teams in winners, 4 teams in losers. This is another possibility to say, okay, we're still going to have 8 teams in winners, 4 teams in losers, but we're going to decide that by, you know, 3 pools of 4 teams at the actual event weekend itself and play loads of COD on the weekends. That's basically what we used to do, but we used to do it with 16 teams. So doing it with 12 teams is definitely possible, and this is an interesting format to potentially make that work. Quickly as well, update on Ronnie's top 25 COD players of all time list. Number 16 goes to TP, and I actually think this is really quite nicely placed here, because TP was always on the border to me of being top 10, as I say now, with the likes of Kenny and Simp and aBeZy and Shotzzy making waves. Some of these guys like Teep and Apathy and John, they're going to drop down the list somewhat. But Teep's you shouldn't underestimate what TP achieved in his career, right? Was on the most dominant team ever on the Complexity Dynasty, made 22 finals, won 17 of them. You know, people are talking about Teep versus Cell, people are talking about Teep versus HyDra, stuff like this. But, you know, you've got to look at the longevity, the World Championship winners, and the fact that, you know, 17 tournament wins cannot be overlooked in terms of these all-time lists. And of course, this is greatest of all time. It's not best of all time, which I think there's some sort of difference there, because was TP the most talented player on this list? No. Is he more talented than HyDra? No, but it's not on talent, right? HyDra will overtake TP all time, I'm firmly confident of that. But as yet, that's not the case, and also TP was the original and arguably the greatest objective player that we've ever had in Call of Duty when that was a proper role back in the day, the objective guy, which isn't really quite so true today, but I'm really a pioneer of the scene. And Octane gets 15th, right? So 10 tournament wins, of course, one-time world champion. I think it could be arguable that Octane could be a bit higher, but it depends, right? As I say, you're looking at guys like, you know, aBeZy and Slasher, who I imagine are going to be relatively shortly after this. So you can probably argue a few of these either way. But I think in general, he's done a pretty good job so far. So enjoy your thoughts as always in the comments section below. But let's talk about what Pred, and obviously we saw what Kenny had to say yesterday on the importance of the Esports World Cup for the OpTic Texas boys. Well, actually, they're OpTic Gaming now, aren't they? Right, they're going to play in the OpTic Gaming jerseys for the event. Before I share the clips, I wanted to share for you guys an interesting moment here from the podcast. You guys can just about fully see this on the screen here. Let me just make sure that it's actually like fully visible. So I'm just going to go frame by frame here at this piece of the video and just have a look at exactly who potentially goes by in the background, right? So do you guys remember when, I think it was a podcast with Big Timer that was done a couple of years ago, when Shotzzy was joining OpTic, and there was like one frame where you can kind of seemingly see someone that looked like Shotzzy and basically was Shotzzy in the background of the podcast. And it was kind of then like, wow, is that Shotzzy? Is that not Shotzzy? And it turned out, yeah, it was Shotzzy. They were filming content for the announcement of the team. Now, who's this walking past in the background here, right? So who does this look like? Now, I don't know who this is. I don't know if it's the guy that it could be, or at least looks like that it might be, because people are saying, is this Kremp, right? Because this is an angle of it right here. Is this Kremp? Is this not Kremp? I don't know. It could be Kremp. It might not be Kremp. But I thought I'd at least mention it because there has been some talk about, well, is Crimsix going to join OpTic, right? Is that what's going to happen after the World Championship? The fact that he came out there on the main stage, he's not with FaZe anymore. But I'm not going to lie, it does kind of look like Crimsix, right? Like there's definitely, you look at this and you first thought you think Kremp, and then you think, well, maybe, but then you think, yeah, quite possibly. So I don't know if that was for real or just a bit of an error in the editing or whatever you want to say, but thought I would mention it regardless.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise that we're
Wait, last year, you just show up and you get paid. Oh my god.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Like Halo.
You're making, I mean, you guys aren't getting last, but
Hey, is Halo in this?
I mean, you're making
I don't think
minimum
so.
5.
But like Halo, you can get 16th and your team will get like $1,400 or something.
Really?
I mean,
Nah, yeah, man. Like,
I'd be pissed if I was in like the top 6.
I just don't want people to think because we won
25 grand
champs.
get thrown
Because we
to
won
the
champs that like
peasants.
we're not going into this tournament like actually like trying to fucking win. I mean, because I know people thinking, oh, they won champs, like they don't care.
No,
About,
no,
like,
no, no,
no, like, fuck no. Like,
no.
Nah,
Once
of
you
course
say-
you're trying to win.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
like, this is basically another chance.
this is like 2 majors combined.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
this is basically like, obviously, it's about the money, but it's also about the ring. At the end of the day, like people want the ring. They don't
Yes.
care. The money is
Yeah.
obviously great. You
Yeah.
want the
The
money.
ring is the legacy.
but
Yeah.
this one's for the money.
This
like,
one is
you like.
the way I
You
see
gotta
it.
get that cash.
Yeah, exactly. The way I see it is like, why the fuck would we not try and just let someone else take the money?
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
Fuck
that's what I'm
that.
saying.
For honor.
Exactly.
You will not allow that
for
to happen.
And for pride too.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want like we just won. We don't want to just like fucking pull up and like, oh yeah, who gives
Yeah.
a fuck? Like, fuck no. Like we want to win this shit. So I don't want people thinking that we're just coming in fucking going through the motions and shit. Cause fuck that shit. We want to win this shit.
Yeah,
I mean,
look, I'm
rightfully
if work takes me there, I will gladly go
that'd be
there.
fire.
I will go there to back you guys. Listen, this could be held on Mars, and I will follow you guys. I'll go with you, man. We go wherever the war is.
Yes.
Wherever there's a trophy to be grabbed, we're going.
Yes.
But I'm hyped for this event. Again, I don't want to cut you off, but I'm just hyped because this is like a inkling of like how things used to be. We have some amateur teams getting the opportunity to take on the pros. We've got a fucking Team Falcons, King aBeZy, a Saudi team.
Yes, me and Imp.
Oh,
waged
wait,
against those
really?
guys all the
Yeah,
time.
Team Falcons, the last team on the list. There's only one.
Those are the fight, man. I
shit.
like those guys.
Yeah, only
they might
one
get
team.
fried. Do they have any practice
No, I'm not even
against,
kidding.
like,
Me and
Americans?
MC,
I've 1v1
we've played against
aBeZy.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're actually not
Are
bad.
they solid?
No, they're not bad, but
Because like, do they
I don't
scrim
think they're
any
CDL
American
level.
teams?
No, they don't.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you get good if you're
Yeah,
not?
yeah,
good?
it's hard for them.
Which
It's very
is
hard.
questions I had for you when we were talking about like you
How-
growing up in Australia. Like, how do you even get
Yeah.
better playing against just like?
No,
It's
there's
a-
good players in Australia. There's
yeah,
like a couple good teams.
it was decent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was one and the same
like,
for these guys.
yeah.
Are the other teams the top challenger teams from Worlds, like the top 4 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like whoever
Yeah, the
plays.
top
Yeah,
four.
yeah.
So like Omit, Gentlemate, Stallions, and Lore are the top 4 from the Challengers champs that just took place at the same time as CDL champs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're gonna have a challengers team in Team Falcons.
So Prid and Kenny both over the last couple of days talking about the intended winning mentality here of this OpTic team, right? Because yes, they've won champs, they want to enjoy it, they want to relax for a few days, get their bearings, I suppose, and then go hard again for the World Cup. Because as Scum says, for the World Championship, sure, the money's nice, but it's really about the legacy, it's about the ring, it's about being a world champion. For the World Cup, that may be true in coming years, being a World Cup winner. But for now, it's mainly for the teams about the cash, right? Let's be real. I mean, a lot of money on the line. They want to go to this tournament. And honestly, as Scump also said, pretty epic tournament in many ways. I don't know how good the tournament's actually going to be, how it's going to be executed, like how it's probably not going to be as exciting as the World Championship because the crowd isn't going to be the same, this type of stuff. But in terms of the actual setup for the tournament, it is the best we've seen in a long time, right? 4 groups of 4, sure it's single elim, but amateur teams here, obviously Team Falcon, Saudi team here, but as Prid says, they ain't coming in here to get top 4, top 3, top 2, whatever. They're here to win. Obviously, you know, you're always here to win. But when there's a trophy on the line, when there's money like this on the line, they, as Prid says, you know, why would they let somebody else win that big prize pool? Because they're going to feel bad about it. And also, if you are OpTic, there's some questions on what that means for the opposition. Like, let's say FaZe come in to win this tournament. Do they stick it out at that point? Or do they decide, you know what, maybe it ain't so bad. Maybe we're going to run it back. Now, if you're OpTic, do you want that or not? I guess is a question, right? Like, let's say OpTic come top 4 this event and like FaZe win, let's say Subliners a second, Ultra a third, or like joint 4th, I guess, with OpTic because there's no double elimination. Then, you know, do those teams stick it out? And at that point, do OpTic say, well, is that good or bad in the long term? If FaZe blow it up, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Like, is their team going to work out? I don't know. But if OpTic win, they kind of make it clear to their opposition that they ain't good enough, right? Like, if OpTic go from winning Major 3, Major 4, big outlier, obviously, but if OpTic were to win Major 3, Champs, and then the World Cup, they would make a very clear statement to FaZe, to Ultra, to Cloud9, to whoever, that your team ain't good enough because you couldn't beat us 2 big tournaments in a row and therefore you've got to make a move. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. How committed do you think they're going to be in their practice over the next couple of days? I imagine that FaZe are out now as well, are getting back into their scrims going into the World Cup. As Simp says though as well, I need to get back into content, right? So this is hopefully a good possibility. Simp is an entertaining content creator when he wants to do it, but understandably really for guys like Simp and really FaZe in general, they've obviously prioritized results and success and grinding and championships over making as much content as they could do. But of course, if you look at the results over the last couple of seasons, OpTic have won more championships in the last 3 years than FaZe have now. And, you know, we know their philosophy when it comes down to content creation. So that's what Simp is thinking about last night. And just to mention, if you guys want someone else to watch, if you guys haven't seen it already, we did potentially the last episode of the season of the Breaking Point podcast that ReeaL has done a phenomenal job hosting all year with HyDra. This was filmed before the World Championship, of course, but nonetheless a really great view into what it took from HyDra to get to where he was when he grew up, over to many local tournaments, over to the US to play Call of Duty on this level, and everything since then. Because, yeah, an unbelievably talented player that I'm sure will go on to continue to dominate in many respects over the coming season. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
I just opened with that just to get, like, you know, a little heat check. And he was like, yeah, it's going to be a good time.